Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my lives. I've had a 2-week break, shock horror. So my name's Jasmine and I'm a certified family coach, and I work with individuals and companies, helping them support their family well-being. And as you know, every week, every Wednesday, I interview different experts who share how they make a difference in people's lives, and they offer tips and tricks. So today, I'm very excited to be interviewing a very good friend of mine, David. David, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Of course. Hi, Jasmine. Hello, everybody who's tuning in. My name is David Golding. I'm a sober and recovery coach. And why do I use both words? Well, sober, I help people with alcohol addiction, and recovery, which is for drug addiction and general behavioral addictions, which is probably what we're going to talk about today.
Amazing. I'm very excited. And today, the title is How to See the Signs That Online Gaming is Getting Out of Control for Your Teens. So, David, you chose this title. Can you tell us a bit about why you chose this title?
Yeah, sure. I think in my working life, I tend to work with clients typically who are alcoholics or drug addicts or gambling addicts. Now, gambling is down the end of the spectrum of behavioral addictions. And of course, there's all sorts of behavioral addictions. And, with the advent of online, I've probably spent this year more time online on LinkedIn and looking at TikTok. And I've been thinking about that. And also the other thing is I have 7 children.
7. Oh, wow. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes. So my youngest is 5. So there are 5, 6, 10, 11, 15, 22, 25. Clearly not with the same wife. But my 4 youngest, so I'm back in the UK at the moment. And, it's just iPad central. So I thought it was a good topic because this is part of my life too. This isn't something that I talk about that doesn't affect me. I think it affects everybody with children and teens. So that was why I chose the topic.
Brilliant. Thanks, David. No, I think you're right. And I think it is becoming, I read somewhere that nowadays, what was it? I can't remember the exact statistic, but we're spending more time on social media than we are with people. It's like the highest it's ever been in the world, ever in history.
And what's interesting about that is that I think, COVID had a lot to do with that.
Yes.
The emergence of the internet and people going online and doing their shopping, more and more and more, and social media. But I think with COVID, there were times in the UK when I'm sure the rest of the world, you were locked in. You weren't allowed out.
Yes. And this became our habit. This became a habit, an ingrained habit. First of all, I guess it was like a savior. Wow, we've got online. We were so lucky that we had that for the connection. But then I guess it became a habit and too much. So what are the signs then, David? Because, we're all online. And, sometimes it can be there's lots of advantages. So how do we know when we're sort of, going over the line and it's becoming an addiction and it's bad for us or teenagers?
Okay. It's a great question, but do you know what? You've used one of the words habit, which has sort of become, part of my vernacular, even more so. And I'll tell you why. I saw one of your lives some time ago, which was Dr. Justin Kennedy.
Yes.
And who's an absolute genius. I've been in touch with him. He taught me an awful lot more about habits because, of course, I look at what's going on in addiction and how does that work. And he gave me a bit more insight into the way the brain works. Why do we have habits? Why do we like these things? So I've taken some of what he said and sprinkled a little bit of my own madness on it. So just briefly, if you imagine as a child you wanted to learn how to ride a bicycle. Okay, so you get this brand new bike for Christmas. You've never ridden a bike before, and you start to learn on it and you fall off. And of course, what you're doing there is you're using the sort of prefrontal cortex of your mind, of your brain, the very aware, in the moment piece of the brain, the thinking piece of the brain. Okay. But of course, what happens is, as evolved human beings, we have evolved to push as much of that into the backs of our brains, into the cerebellum and the amygdala. And that's so that we can do things automatically. You can imagine that if you wanted to throw a stone and hit a gazelle, you couldn't think about that. You just throw the stone.
Yeah.
So what happens is that when we're learning to ride this bike, we get used to doing that. And the more and more and more we train ourselves, the more it goes into our subconscious so that you can eventually you can get on that bike and ride it away and hold a conversation and
Without thinking.
even go on LinkedIn while you're riding a bike. So
No,
that's
do not
you know,
recommend.
so that's the way that we build habits. And ultimately, addiction is really habits gone mental, habits gone mad, which is where they begin to overtake and dominate. And of course, they do that because it's very complicated with their brain chemistry. We get these dopamine hits, and there's that like that you get. And of course, these are the things now which you begin to see in reaction to things online. So, for example, Facebook likes and hearts in Instagram. These are the things that almost give us these dopamine hits. So when we look at social media addiction or things like that, they're really very, very similar and overlap in the same way that gambling does.
Wow. And can I just ask, I just thought when you were saying that about the dopamine hit, is it, so I know we get the dopamine hit, but also is it something about validation as well? Or is that blended with?
I think it gives us all sorts of things. So there's many brain chemicals. Again, go back and look at Dr. Justin, anyone that's tuned in now, and he was talking about the various different brain chemicals. So epinephrine or noradrenaline is about adrenaline, so it gives you that rush. You've got oxytocin, and oxytocin is called the hug hormone, which we get when we're in a community. So you get so many rewards. Wow. And that's what we're talking about. We get all these rewards by being online. But the truth is, we're isolated. We're doing all of this on our own.
I know. This is the problem. This is like the main problem, I think.
Yeah. So forgive me. I went a long way round to get back to your question, which is, how do we know when things are going wrong? Well, I say the same answer to anyone that's concerned about their own behaviors or somebody that they care about, somebody close to them. And I think the first thing to look at is, what are the consequences? So a good habit is a great habit when there's no bad consequences. So let's say I have decided to go to the gym, brackets, which I need to, but if I go to the gym and suddenly I'm going every day of the week for 4 hours a day, well, what began as a good habit is probably become a bad habit because the
But who says it's a good habit? Like, because you might still think it's a good habit. Like, who decides that?
Again, I think look at the consequences. So I'll give you a personal example. In 2014, actually, when I was in the height of my addiction, I had a clean spell, a dry spell for a while, and I hired a coach, and I wanted to get in the gym. And he used to take me, and I was completely obsessed by it. And because, look, I'm this addictaholic who will be, addicted to working, the gym, chocolate, everything. So in the end, I would have to be there before it opened at 6:30 in the morning. And I would have to be there first, and I would have to do the most. And it meant that I was no longer here to help my wife get the children out of bed in the morning or take them to school. And I would say to her, no, I need to go to the gym. So for me, those were the consequences of what starts out as a healthy thing to do, and then becomes something that's really impacting my life. So I think when we look at anyone who might begin to have an unhealthy relationship, whether it's social media or whether it's online gaming or anything, let's look at the consequences. If you drink, do you fall over and do you forget? If you go into the gym, do you just spend all day, every day and think about that? So getting back to our teens and children, probably the first thing is to look at the amount of time that our young ones are spending online. Now, that on its own isn't necessarily bad because, here's a question. What's a reasonable amount of time for a child to spend on TikTok a day? There you go.
Exactly.
Yes, it's a really
I'm not
tough
sure.
question to ask.
I would say like an hour a day, but 2 hours a day. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. But I think also what I've noticed, like with my family as well, like I've got twin nieces, and I remember, I don't think it's as much now, but when they were younger, like maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, if my mum, when she was looking after them, if she took the iPad away from them, they would go crazy. One of them would go crazy, and we just couldn't. It was just it was just nearly impossible. So sometimes I think when you take that, like, how are you when you don't have access to that device or whatever it is?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's where maybe when it began, that balance wasn't there, the management of that. And I think as parents of children, I think sorry, forgive me, I keep saying I'll only speak about me. I could be better at managing that. And of course, let's be honest, we've got 4 children who are young. They've all got an iPad or Xbox or whatever. And sometimes my wife and I call it the rectangular babysitter. You know, when we want some peace, we think, oh God, let's just give them their iPads. You know, how many parents have said that?
You need a break as well. Yeah.
I want some time off. But of course, if they've ended up doing that too much, you'll get the withdrawal. So some of the other things to look out for are they losing real friendships? Are they losing time from some of the more important things in favor of going online? I'll give you another example. My son, who's 10, he's really quite a good footballer. So out in the garden, there's a goal, but upstairs is FIFA 23. So there's times where he would prefer to play FIFA than go and play football. So as a dad, I've got to manage him and say, come on, I'll come and play football with you. Let's get outside. Yes. It's not raining. Because it's so easy for him to be in his bedroom.
Yeah. But once they're out, they probably they enjoy that much more. But it's just because it's you have to make an effort, don't you, to get away from the iPad, get up, get out. But once, like with the twins, my mom used to like say, right, we're going to the beach. They would cry, no, we don't want to go. We don't want to go. As soon as we're there, they would have the best time of their lives.
And that's the thing, which is we get the sort of child's pester power, which is they don't want to do it. Oh, I don't want to do it. And then when you get there, you forget it's great. So look, we're all as human beings get a bit of that. I mean, there's things sometimes I say, oh, I don't want to do that. But actually, when I get there, it is better. So, you know, that's part of the human mind. So I think that us helping our children to manage their time and manage it. And it's, of course, very difficult to do that. I'm not pointing the finger, by the way, at any parent. I'm just accepting that, you know, one of the things that I talk about with people is about having a family media plan. So this is a real way to go about managing what's going on in the home. Because if you don't manage it, it's going to go out of control. And I can tell you that my 6-year-old son is not capable of putting together his own media management plan. You know, he needs his mum and dad to say, come on, David, right, we're going to do this, we're going to do your homework, you're going to do this, and we all do that. Yes, but we all have to put up with the whinging and, you know, all those sorts of things.
Yeah. No, thanks, David. So basically, the difference between a habit and an addiction is the consequences.
I think it's the consequences. And, you know, I think there's things about other things to do with addiction are obsession and compulsion, particularly
tell us about that. Yeah.
With behavioral addictions. So probably let's talk about gambling addiction for a minute, just briefly, because I think it might be easy for people to understand that there's this obsession to gamble. People can't explain it. So, you know, if I was a gambling addict, so let's say I trained myself for 40 years to soothe myself by gambling.
Okay, but it started as a habit. Sorry, did it start? Do all addictions start as a habit?
I suspect that they probably do, because somewhere in your past it's begun. Okay.
Yes. Okay, that's true. Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about some of these habits that we have, they can start even when you don't want to do it. So, for example, who really wants to start smoking? But people do. So you'll have 2 cigarettes, and then because of peer pressure, you'll have some more cigarettes.
Peer pressure, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, when I was a boy and I was 6 or 7 years old, I grew up in Burnham-on-Sea in Somerset, and it's a coastal seaside town with pavilions of fruit machines and pinballs and gambling machines. And that was my baptism of fire. In the school holidays, I would go there and play on fruit machines. So it's no surprise that at 18, I was going to betting shops, and then 21 going to casinos, and then online gambling. So for me, there was an obsession, which is that I'd trained myself. And those are the 3 words I use about my addictions. I trained myself.
Okay, tell us again more. Yeah.
Which is that when I felt in a state of dis-ease, I mean, we call it, I mean, addiction is classified as a disease, but I call it a state of dis-ease. When I'm ill at ease, I want to soothe myself. That's a human trait. So Do I pick up a bar of chocolate? Somebody else might do something else. I used to have a gamble or a drink, and somebody else might go on social media. So if they're not really very aware, but if somebody might be feeling a little bit down on themselves, a bit
and empty,
depressed,
maybe, if you're feeling a
empty,
bit empty, lonely, empty.
let's go on social media and see if I've made some new friends. How many likes have I got? I've just done a post. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And I think that's where the habits become a problem. So this obsession to keep doing something, even when we know it's not right, but also the compulsion to keep doing it. So that compulsion, the best way to explain that is for an alcoholic, which is you can't give me one drink. One was never enough. As soon as I've had one, I want 1,000. There was no stop button.
Never enough, thousands too much. Yeah.
There you go.
What was I going to say? So we're going back to the addiction and gaming then. So if you're a parent and you have, children, teenagers, and you're noticing that it's a habit, or maybe it happens more often. So maybe they started off an hour a day and then it's gone to like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Do you think that's how it works? It just becomes more and more and more? Because you said obsession. So how would you know it's an obsession?
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not easy to see. We don't have glass foreheads to see what's going on. But I think that you're right. You can see over time, it's a creeping disease. It's a creeping thing that happens. So we say that they're progressive and insidious. It just creeps along. It's a little bit like look out of your back window. You will not see the grass grow. But if you look out there once a week, you'll see it grow. Yes. So if you were to take a temperament, a measurement of the temperature of what's going on every now and again, you'll begin to see. And that's how it creeps up. So I can say that on a weekend, again, my son who's 10, he could very easily spend 8 hours a day in his bedroom and play FIFA. His friends are online. He would say, hey, this is where I'm getting all my social interaction. I am with my friends. I am. But of course, that we can all see as parents, well, that's not the same as playing football outside with, jumpers for goalposts.
And so imagine. Oh, sorry, David. Yeah.
I can say, I think you're right, Jasmine. It just creeps up on you slowly. And before you know it, it probably does become an obsession. But there's no Tuesday when it begins. This is a slow, insidious, creeping thing.
Yeah, no, you're right. It creeps up. Like you said, like everything, actually. Even the good things. And that's why taking small steps in the right direction can lead to, it's the tiny things. And you don't see it happening, good or bad, until suddenly you're like, I've made it. Or
completely. I can't think of an analogy, but if you just took little baby steps towards a mountain in the far distance, you'll never feel that you're getting nearer. But if you look over your shoulder, gosh, you've gone a long way.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. And I think, it's really interesting points you've made. And also, going back to the isolation and being alone, I think this is what's causing so many problems anyway, isn't it? Especially for teenagers, because maybe us adults, it's still hard, I think, spending time alone. It's not good for anybody too much, is it? But I think especially teenagers, because obviously they don't have the life experience behind them.
There's another really important aspect here, of course, as well. That I don't want to stress too much, but I want to tell the truth, which is that as a child, up until about the age of, I think it's 21 to 24, your brain is still developing. Okay, so these neural networks that you're building, these neural pathways that are part of the way that you think and feel and behave, they're immature. A 5-year-old that's completely obsessed with some online games, you're building new pathways that will only come to fruition a lifetime later. I think, in all honesty, I think the jury's probably out about the impact of some of this stuff. I mean, how long have iPads been around? 10, 12 years? That's not a lifetime. So the impact of online stuff, I'm not bad-mouthing it, by the way, because, of course, it's got its place. But again, the long-term impact about the development of a child's brain, it's impacted.
It seems like the only, it seems like the only way to manage this is to take it away. Like, how else could you manage it?
I think the other way is to do exactly what you said, which is to manage it.
To manage it.
Yeah, and I think that we can probably all recognize in all things, too much of something is probably bad. So you can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So this is part of the sort of media plan that I was talking about. There's a number of
Work
things that
together. Yeah.
parents can do. So for example, the very first thing that's really helpful, I think, is that, if your children go and hide in their bedroom and do their stuff online, well, you have no idea. You have no idea what they're doing. So
Yes.
get involved. Get involved and sit with them. Again, my own children. Dominic, who's 10, he wants me to watch him all the time. They're all asking, come and watch me, come and get involved. Okay, so I do. And I sit there, and he's taken a challenge at the moment to teach me how to play FIFA 23. Now, I'll tell you that the reason that I did that was that within FIFA, you can buy packs, and you buy a pack and it opens up players. And you buy these packs with new players. Yes. Now, that's a real dopamine hit. That's like a confetti, you've won Ronaldo. Whoa.
But then it's like the iPads won, or the computers won them, because actually instead of them using it less, the adults are involved as well.
Well, no.
Yeah. I mean,
no, it's a fair point. No, we're not all getting involved now, and he's won.
You can't beat them, join them.
No, I'm going to spend some quality time with him so that I can
you're right. You're right.
I can understand more, because some of the things is that I often don't know what he is watching. Okay, so some of the other things that I can tell my children is that it's all, your history is searchable. Be very careful who you connect with. All of the safeguarding things.
Safeguard, educating, and like you were saying, spending quality time and having open conversations. Definitely.
100%.
And I think it's great what you do. Yeah, you spend quality time with your son doing the things that he likes on his computer, but then also you will say, right, let's go outside now as well. So you're kind of doing both. So I completely makes sense. I was just joking.
No, bless you. No, because again, I know that left to his own devices, he'll do what he wants. And the trouble is, that's a human trait, which is sometimes there's things that I need to do, but I still do what I want. And children will do what they want, but actually I need you to do the following. So, for example, my daughter, who's now 5, when she was younger, she would be on an iPad and Wii herself because she was completely immersed. Okay, now this is when we were trying to potty train her, if you like, a little bit later. But even as adults, I see that adults now, they don't eat.
Yes, you forget to eat. You hear people say, "Oh, I've forgotten to eat today."
Yeah, and they're so immersed. So
yes.
So again, we've
not
got
listening to your body. Yeah.
Well, we've got, and again, as a child, they're not so aware. So I think that we can help them with all of that without coming down as the internet police, because that's not going to work.
No, and like you were saying, it's about strengthening your relationship with your children, because the stronger your relationship is and the safer that they feel, they're going to listen. They're more like, if you listen to them, they're going to listen to you. If you respect them, they're going to respect you. And I mean, having
100%. And again, it's not a secret thing that the children go and line up in their bedrooms. I mean, part of the media plan actually is some people would say not to have any electronic devices in the bedroom. The bedroom is where you sleep. And in doing so, then if you had a computer downstairs and they're online, then you can see what they're doing. Now, again, it's up to you. Where do you want to draw your line? But you should be considering maybe all of these things. Now, that one I don't want to do, but that one's a good idea. So, for example, I have a media plan template if anyone wants to email me.
Yeah. How do you set that up then? Do you everybody has a conversation, everybody has a say? Like, how do you do it? Because I can imagine you're not going to be like, right, this is how it is, the end.
Again, it's different if they're 5 or they're 15. Imagine,
that's true. Even if a 5-year-old could say something.
My eldest daughter is 11, but she's 11 going on 15. So, there's things that she just won't want to talk to me about. So she'll speak to her mother about it. But even at that age, we're beginning to talk about, cyberbullying. One day, children being asked to send pictures, maybe when she's older, certainly not at 11, I'd hope. But I think there was a recent study, which is that girls, there was a study in England school-aged girls, and 7% of them had said that people had published pictures of them without their permission. That's 7%.
It seems very high in the UK at the moment. Yeah, it's frightening. It's frightening. But yeah, no, So we've just got a few minutes left. If anybody's here, please ask us a question, comment. We'll be happy to answer and tell us your opinion. It's always good to hear, different views, points of views. So, David, before we go, what else would you like to say about this? Like, what is something important, and what are you doing next? Because I know you're really busy helping people with their addictions.
Bless you. Well, probably the last thing on this topic, and you called it, Jasmine, which is the same for anything, which is talking. Nothing can progress unless there's dialogue, unless there's talking. So, if somebody's worried about someone in the family, talk to somebody else, talk to a therapist or a doctor if they're particularly worried. But I think starting to talk to your children about these things, it's all part of education. People probably don't need me to tell them to talk to their kids. But I think actually sometimes a focus on this particular topic, you might be surprised where it goes, and to keep learning. I mean, I'll be brutally honest, which is that it's only recently that I've learned more about esports online. I mean, it's a huge global industry, esports. And, online, there's a service called Twitch, where you can watch streaming of esports. I mean, it's huge, and people have got huge careers. There's competitions where the prize money is $25 million. Finals are watched by 60 million people online. So, if you know nothing about esports, and you've got particularly boys, because 85% of boys play esports or watch it, go and have a look into that and educate yourself a little bit. I think there came a time, forgive me, I would just Google esports, go to Wikipedia first, and you will go down the rabbit's maze. But again, if you're interested, ask your sons or daughters about, do they know about Twitch, and get it on your phone. I've got it on my phone and had a look because I didn't know, and I wanted to know more.
It's good to be informed. Yeah,
of course, because my sons didn't talk to me about that. My elder sons, they've been using Twitch for 3 years, 2-3 years.
Wow.
Just unaware. So never too old to learn.
Oh no, definitely not. Every day's a school day. And and what was I going to say? I've just lost track what I was going to say about teenagers. Oh, and a lot of cases, of course, they know more than us about social media and everything, so we can learn from them. So we do need to ask. It's always good to ask questions anyway, but it's necessary to ask questions.
And they know more technology-wise. They know more of the apps and things that are available. They're also incredibly skilled. I'll leave you on this last thing, which is that American nuclear-powered submarines, the periscope that used to go up and down, the controller for the periscope was $38,000. In recent changes, they've changed that to be an Xbox controller because they're $30.
Wow.
And because I think, everyone knows how to use an Xbox controller.
Wow. I think I do.
Well, if you did, you could power a nuclear-powered submarine and use the periscope.
But no, I think you're right. And curiosity is key in any situation. Ask that question. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, I think for any family where there's a bit of tension, where going online or social media or gaming and Xbox, if it's becoming full of tension, I think it's time to start to sort of scratch away at the surface and maybe surface and go and have a little look more, look a bit deeper, try and learn a bit more. I've never really wanted this barrier to be between me and my kids, so I need to learn more.
I love that. No, I think that's the best thing, and with your media plan as well. But no, definitely. So, David, how can people find you? I know you've got your email right there.
That's one good way. My website is sober.ae, and you can find me as Sober Coach Dubai on LinkedIn and on Instagram. But if you email me, I'm quite happy. If you want one, I send you a copy of a media plan.
I wouldn't mind one. I might send you an email.
Yeah, you get one for free as well. A family media plan, because it's just a list of ideas. It's not a
Exactly. Somewhere to
recipe. It's not
start,
a
isn't it? It's
prescription.
somewhere to start. Because I think that is the biggest thing. When I work with clients, teenagers, they don't always say this, but you feel like they just, where do I start?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need a page with a few
Yeah.
points. Let's just start here.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to start from a blank sheet of paper. So I'll give you one that's got some words on.
But thank you so much, David, and everybody who's watching. Please contact
Bless you.
David if you have any questions. Me too. And that's it. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Bless you. Thanks.